The UN Security Council has held an emergency session to discuss the Taliban's restrictive policies on women in Afghanistan. The UK envoy said it was wrong and regressive that the hardline group had banished women to the sidelines of life. The Taliban's curbs range from prohibiting women from traveling without a male chaperone, cutting them off from most employment, and banning older girls from going to school. Measures designed to erase women from public life. The latest of these diktats requires women to cover themselves from head to toe.
Burqa is not my identity, these Afghan women chanted. Asking for justice under the Taliban rule takes a lot of courage. But the latest order for them to wear a complete hijab, meaning to cover up everything but their eyes, has angered them once again. We want to live as living beings, live as noble creatures, not to live as a captive in one corner of the house, not to be held in the cage of our house and our husbands go and beg for food. We never want a day like this. Protests like these usually won't last long. Get out of here or I'll kill you, this armed law enforcer says. Most of the women and girls have no choice but to comply with the restrictions, the harshest since the Taliban came to power in August 2021. Just a month after the takeover, the regime replaced the Women's Ministry with the Ministry of Virtue and Vice. Women and girls have been told to stay home. In the third quarter of 2021, their employment levels fell by an estimated 16%, much more than men. In December, the Taliban banned long-distance travel for women without a close male relative. All of these happened while the de facto authorities say they have changed.
We have made progress in administration, in politics, in the development sector of the country, and in interaction with the nation and the world. With each passing day, in all walks of life, we will gain more experience and make more progress.
Progress is not what these girls experienced. The Taliban promised they could return to secondary school in March, but they were sent home instead. A U-turn in policy that confirmed to these girls that the Taliban is determined to strip them of their basic rights.
And joining me now from Washington, D.C. is the U.S. Special Envoy for Afghan Women, Girls and Human Rights, Reena Amiri. Welcome, Ms. Amiri. The Taliban continue to issue draconian diktats curtailing women's freedoms in Afghanistan. In your assessment, is the situation for women and girls going to keep getting worse?
Well, first, thank you for having me on and putting a spotlight on this really critical issue. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is an expanding set of restrictions on Afghan women, and it's quite systematic. And it's certainly not looking good. As one Afghan woman characterized it to me, she said that she sensed that there was a Taliban war on women, and this I think is something to really take stock of, is that women in Afghanistan feel under siege by the de facto authorities in Afghanistan.
So how can you or the United States end this siege?
Well, we've made our position emphatically clear that the situation of Afghan women and girls and human rights is of critical importance to us. The Taliban have consistently said that they no longer want to be a pariah, be seen as a pariah by the international community. They want to have a relationship with the international community where they're seen as respected counterparts. And we have said that so long as you continue to behave in the same way that you did as the 1990s, there's going to be no change in our relationship. And moreover, there's many things that the Taliban want. They want greater economic engagement. They want greater normalization. They want more diplomatic engagement. All of that is contingent on their behavior and what they do in regard to women, girls, and the human rights situation in Afghanistan.
They know that, yet they keep walking back on commitments that they had made before they took over rule in the country. I mean, the majority of women still can't work. They can't travel without male guardians. Secondary education is a no-go. Do the Taliban really care?
The Taliban should care, not just because of the international community, but because they cannot hold the peace. They cannot prevent further brain drain in Afghanistan. They cannot make Afghanistan an economically viable country and prevent further economic collapse when they deny 50% of the population their rights.
Now, on Monday, State Department spokesman Ned Price said the U.S. has, quote, a number of tools it can use if the Taliban don't undo some of their recent decisions concerning women. What are these tools?
We've had ongoing discussions with the Taliban, and at a working level, we continue to engage them and to make very clear that there are a set of demands on the side of the Taliban. There are things that they would like to have happen. And for that, the role of the U.S. and the international community are key. They understand that, and as I said, we've made it explicit. Those are the.
I'm sorry to interrupt, ma'am, but they don't seem to be listening. They seem to be hearing you, but they don't seem to be acting on it, which is why you have one decision after another. So they know they want recognition, and they need to do a certain number of things to get it, but they still continue with these draconian diktats.
Unfortunately, what appears clear is the Taliban are prioritizing their internal cohesion over the fate of the country, of the fate of the population, and their relationship with the international community. They are making decisions that I think will end up costing them significantly on many different levels.
Now, last year in an interview in September, you had said that Afghan women feel, quote, a profound sense of betrayal after the U.S. withdrawal from the country. Given that is what they feel, in your words, should Afghanistan's women and girls expect anything at all from the United States?
Well, I would note that one of the, in response to the concerns heard from Afghan women, and many, and at that point I was an independent actor when I made those comments. In response to that concern, the U.S. government established my position and my office, and has provided I think significant support to my office to address this issue. So I think that the commitment is certainly there. I've been in my position for 5 months, and I've seen that throughout the government there is broad-scale support for my efforts to advance the situation of women and girls.
All right, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Rina Amiri, the U.S. Special Envoy for Afghan Women, Girls and Human Rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Some Afghan women are trying to fight back. 20 female lawmakers have set up a parliament in exile in Greece. They escaped to the capital Athens when the Taliban seized power last August. They are determined to use their influence and experience to help the women left behind in their homeland.
3 years ago, Nazifa Yusufi Bek was elected to the Afghan parliament. Now the politician has been forced into exile in Athens. She says there's so much she'd wanted to get done.
I got up every morning with the will and the goal to fight for Afghan society and for women's rights.
Those efforts were brutally interrupted when the Taliban seized power last August. Crowds besieged Kabul airport, desperate to leave the country. Yusufi Bek was among them. She knew that if she didn't leave Afghanistan, the Taliban would hunt her down. She escaped with her children, but that deeply scarred her.
When we got here, we had lost everything. We had to leave our family behind, my parents, all of our belongings. I was in bad shape, traumatized. But I kept forcing myself to hope. Now we're doing much better in Greece. But the poor people back in Afghanistan, things are quite bad.
Every day, Yusufi Bek talks to her family and friends back home. She was shocked when one day after the Afghan New Year in March, she heard that the Taliban had broken their promise to allow girls to go back to school. The girl she's chatting to here had been desperate to return to a classroom. She was just about to graduate.
We hope that the women who are now abroad will fight for us and try to find a way for us to go back to school.
And they are. Yusufi Bek is not alone in Athens. Shagufta Nurzai is one of many other Afghan lawmakers in exile in the city. Together with her former colleagues, Nurzai wants to fight for Afghan women from here, the old Greek parliament. Today, 24 ex-lawmakers are meeting here to form a new parliament, a parliament in exile, and a female one. Before the Taliban invasion, there were 69 women lawmakers in Afghanistan. Now, not a single woman is in government, and the legislature has been abolished. Shagufta Nurzai starkly warns the West over officially recognizing the Taliban.
Violence against women will increase. Intelligence will leave Afghanistan. We will not have individual freedom. Everyone will be busy with the religious extremists, and the modern science will be forgotten.
Speaking from Brussels, member of the European Parliament Hannah Neumann shares that view. Dialogue with the Taliban should continue, but the West should also take this exiled parliament seriously. The lawmakers here will need such backing to give a voice to people in their homeland, Afghans who could not leave the country and now have to live under the Taliban.